गोपीनाथ मरण मोहन जू की जाय। नित्यल्लभ विष्णु विष्णुपाद रशत रशत शिशिमार भक्ति वेदांत नारायण गोसाई महाराज श्री गुरुदेव की जाय। नित्यल्लभ विष्णु विष्णुपाद रशत रशत शिशिमार भक्ति वेदांत वामन गोसाई महाराज की जाय। नित्यल्लभ विष्णु विष्णुपाद रशत रशत शिशिमार भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी महाराज श्री प्रभुपाद की जाय। नित्यल्लभ विष्णु विष्णुपाद रशत रशत शिशिमार भक्ति प्रज्ञान केशव गोसाई महाराज की जाय। नित्यल्लभ विष्णु विष्णुपाद रशत रशत शिशिमार श्रील भक्तिसिद्धांत सरस्वती गोसाई प्रभुपाद की जाय। नित्यल्लभ विष्णु महाभागवत श्रील गोरक्षरस बाबाजी महाराज की जाय। नित्यल्लभ विष्णु श्रील सच्चिदानंद भक्ति विनोद ठाकुर की जाय। नित्यल्लभ विष्णु वैष्णव सार्वभौम श्री जगन्नाथ दास बाबाजी महाराज की जाय। श्री रूपानुग गौड़ीय गुरु वर्ग की जाय। श्री रूप सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल भट्टदास रघुनाथ शारद गोसाई प्रभु की जाय। श्री स्वरूप दामोदर राय रामानंदारी श्री गौर पार्षद वृंद की जाय। नाम अक्षय श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जाय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासरी गौर भक्त वृंद की जाय। श्री क्षेत्र मंडल गौर मंडल व्रज मंडल मथुरा वृंदावन धाम की जाय। सर्व अभिष्ट विराट गिरिराज महाराज की जाय। श्री राधा कुंद श्याम कुंद की जाय। श्री यमुना देवी गंगा देवी की जाय। श्री तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की जाय। श्री भक्ति देवी की जाय। श्री पूर्णमासी योगमाय की जाय। श्री गोपेश्वर महादेव की जाय। श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जाय। श्री उद्धव गीता की जय। उद्धव गीता पाठ समाप्त दिवस की जय। श्री कृष्ण चंद्र की जय। श्री उद्धव जी की जय। श्री ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। श्री विश्वनाथ चक्रवर्ती ठाकुर Sārārtha-darśinī वृत्ति की जय। श्रील भक्तिसिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी प्रभुपादेर गौड़ीय भाष्य की जय। श्री पांडव निर्जल एकादशी की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। समागत गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। One second. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Narayaniti Namine. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvishe Namaha. Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tarbhaktaya Namo Namaha. Yang pravrajantam apeta krityam dvaipayano virahaka tara ajuhava putreti tanmayataya taravo bhinedu stang sarvabhuta hridayam munimanatosmi narayanam namaskritya narang chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam udirayet. Shrinvatang svakatha Krishna punya shravana kirtana hridantasto yabhadrani vidhunoti suritsatam nashta prayeshvabhadreshu nityang bhagavata sevaya bhagavatyuttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtaki. Tavai vasmi na jivami tvaya vina iti vigyaya radhe tvang nayamang charanantikam bhaktya vihina aparada lakshai kshiptashtakama ditaranga madhye kripa mai tvam sharanam prapana vrinde namaste charanaravindam. Bhaja Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Gargaraj ji, Dandavat Pranam, Madhavi Didi, Hare Krishna, Raseshwari Mataji, and Kishore Prabhu. Okay, what's the verse Kishore is sharing with us today? Krishna Tulya Bhagavata Vibhu Sarvashrai Prati Shloke Prati Akshare Nana Artha Koi. Srimad Bhagavatam is identical to Krishna and is the shelter of everything. In each and every shlok, in each and every shlokan syllable, there are many meanings. Thank you for that. So today we complete, after months, how many months have we been reading this for? Anyways, after months of daily reading, we are finally completing the Uddhava-gītā. I think we've been reading this for quite a while now. So, yeah, it's a little sad because we're going to be completing Srila Bhaktisiddhānta Sarasvatī Prabhupāda's commentary. But actually, we'll start reading his commentary again soon for Chaitanya Bhagavat. So there will only be a 2-week, I think, there'll be a month gap, and then we'll continue reading his commentary again for Chaitanya Bhagavat. So let's begin. I'll read the translations for all the verses to where we read up to yesterday. Oops, wrong book. No, this is the right book. Okay, so chapter 23, last chapter, Bhakti-yoga. Shri Uddhav said, so after, the previous chapter was all about Jnana Yoga, right? But then Uddhav said, O infallible Lord, I think that it is very difficult for ordinary persons who are not self-controlled to practice the yoga system described by you in the previous chapter, Jnana Yoga. Therefore, please tell me more simply how one can easily attain perfection. O lotus-eyed Lord, yogis who try to steady the mind generally experience frustration because of their inability to do so. As a result, they become wary of their attempts to bring the mind under control. Therefore, O lotus-eyed Lord of the universe, swan-like men joyfully take shelter of your lotus feet, the source of all transcendental ecstasy. However, those who do not surrender to you, being proud of their practice of yoga and karma, are defeated by your illusory energy. My dear infallible Lord, it is not at all astonishing that you intimately relate with your devotees who have taken shelter of you, such as Nanda Mahārāja, the Gopis, and Bali Mahārāja. After all, during your appearance as Lord Ramachandra, when even great personalities such as Brahma desired to place the tips of their crowns at your lotus feet, you nevertheless showed more affection for monkeys such as Hanuman, because they had taken exclusive shelter of you. Who could even think of rejecting you, the Supreme Soul, the most dear object of worship, and the Supreme Lord of all, who awards all possible perfections to the devotees who take shelter of you? Who could be so ungrateful, knowing the great mercy you bestow? Who would reject you and accept something for the sake of material enjoyment, which simply leads to a miserable condition of life? What is there lacking for us who are engaged in the service of the dust of your lotus feet? My dear Lord, those who are learned scholars in this transcendental science could never properly express their indebtedness to you, even within a lifetime of Brahma, because you manifest yourself externally as the Acharya and internally as the Supersoul to deliver the conditioned souls by instructing them how to return to you. Shukadeva Goswami said, being thus questioned by the most affectionate Uddhava, Lord Krishna, the master of the demigods, who considers the entire universe as his plaything and assumes the three forms of Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, he began to reply while lovingly displaying his all-attractive smile. Just quickly checking the comments. Okay. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, yes, I shall describe to you the religious principles of devotion to me, by executing which a mortal human being can conquer unconquerable death. Mrityum jayati durjayam. Oh, yeah. While always remembering me, one should perform his devotional and daily duties for my satisfaction, without becoming impetuous. With mind and intelligence offered to me, one should cultivate attraction for my devotional service. One should reside in a holy place that is inhabited by my saintly devotees. Okay, so one should reside in a holy place that is inhabited by my saintly devotees, and one should follow in their footsteps. Such devotees appear among the demigods, demons, and human beings. Whether alone or in an assembly of devotees, one should sing, dance, and spend lavishly to celebrate my appearance days, as well as other ceremonies and festivals that are especially meant for my worship. With a purified heart, one should see me as being situated within his own self, as well as within the hearts of all living entities, unblemished and all-pervading like the sky. This is what we ended up with yesterday. O most intelligent Uddhava, one who cultivates the understanding that I am present in the heart of all living beings, and who offers respects to everyone, is to be considered actually wise. That person is to be considered actually wise. Such a person sees equally the Brahmana and the outcast, the thief and the person who gives charity to the Brahmanas, the sun and tiny sparks, the gentle and the cruel. Okay, so now we continue on from text 15 to the very end. I'm just curious, how long is today's reading going to be? Oh, not so long. Okay. All right. Naresh abhikshnamad pungso bhavayato chirat spardhasu yatiraskara sahara viyantihi. For one who constantly meditates on me as being situated within all living entities, all bad qualities such as rivalry, abusiveness, and arrogance, along with their cause, false ego, are quickly vanquished. Sārārtha-darśinī commentary by Śrīla Viśvanātha Cakravartī Ṭhākura. one should practice seeing how the Supreme Lord is situated everywhere, so that his polluted qualities, such as arrogance, can be destroyed. In material consciousness, one engages in rivalry with his equals, is envious of superiors, and belittles those who are inferior. Visrijas mayamanam swan, drisham vridam chadaihikim, praname dandavar bhumav, ashvachandalago karam. For some reason that verse looks familiar. Let's see. Ignoring the ridicule of one's companions, one should renounce the bodily conception of life and its concomitant embarrassments, and offer obeisances to all living beings, even dogs, cows, donkeys, and untouchables, falling flat upon the ground just like a stick. Are you ready to offer full prostrated obeisances to the dog? Sārārtha-darśinī. How one can cultivate equal vision, seeing everything in relation to the Supreme Lord, is described in this verse. The purport is that one should learn how to see with spiritual vision, and not remain satisfied with simply studying the bodily designations, which, after all, are temporary. Instead of showing respect or contempt according to external circumstances, one should show respect to all classes of beings, even dogs and dog-eaters, knowing that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is universal. Gauḍīya Bhaktisiddhānta Sarasvatī Gosvāmī Prabhupāda. One should ignore the ridicule of envious people while showing suitable respect for all living beings, even dogs, dog-eaters, and asses. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has instructed us to consider ourselves lower than the straw in the street, and to be more tolerant than a tree, offering respect to all others while not expecting any respect for oneself. This is the secret of success in the matter of chanting the holy name of the Lord. I like that. This is the secret of success. Saving that one. Oops, I didn't mean to copy that. I meant to highlight that. Come on. Yavat sarveshu bhuteshu madbhavo no pajayate tavarevam upasita vangmana kaya vrittibi. Until one is actually able to see me within all living beings, one should worship me in the prescribed manner with his body, mind, and speech. Sārārtha-darśinī. Until one has gained the realization that the Supreme Lord is residing within the hearts of all living entities, it is recommended that one offer obeisances to varieties of creatures as a means for elevating one to that highest platform. Although one may not actually fall flat before every dog and donkey, at least one should carefully respect all forms of life, knowing them to be part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. Thus, one should show respect to all with one's body, mind, and words. I like this. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. While worshipping the Supreme Lord with one's body, mind, and speech, one should think oneself to be lower than a blade of grass. One should be more tolerant than a tree. And one should be ready to give respect to all living entities without desiring any respect in return. In such a state of mind, one can continuously engage in bhajan, our worship of the Supreme Lord. Sarvam brahmatmakam tasya vidyayatma manishaya paripashyan uparamit Sarvato muita, Sarvato muita saṅśaya. By the cultivation of such transcendental knowledge, one should become free from all doubts by seeing the Supreme Lord everywhere and within all living entities, thus remaining aloof from all kinds of fruitive activities. Sārārtha-darśinī. By the advancement of transcendental knowledge, one should come to see the Supreme Lord everywhere. It is a fact that everything in existence is owned and controlled by the Lord, and being well aware of this, one should refrain from fruitive activities. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. The more one advances in Krishna consciousness, the more one becomes freed from all doubts. By constant engagement in devotional service, one can free oneself from all reactions of fruitive work. In devotional service, one works under the direction of the Supreme Lord and his representative, the spiritual master, whereas fruitive activities are impelled by the three modes of material nature. The conditioned souls exhibit many unfavorable qualities because their activities are based on envy. Such envy can only be removed by dedicated worship of the Lord, with one's body, mind, and speech. Ayam hi sarva kalpanam sadrichino mato mama madbhava sarva bhuteshu manovakaya vrittibhi. I consider this process of utilizing one's mind, words, and bodily functions for realizing my presence within all living entities to be the best method of spiritual enlightenment. Sārārtha-darśinī. For the jnanis, realization of impersonal Brahman is life's ultimate goal. Verse 20. Na hyango pakrame dvangso madharmasyo dhavanavapi. Dharmasyo dhavanvapi. Maya vyavastita samyam nirgunatvad anashishaha. My dear Uddhav, because the process of devotional service has been established by me, it is transcendental and free from any material considerations. There is no doubt that a devotee will never suffer the slightest loss by taking to this process. Sārārtha-darśinī. After explaining the essence of jnana in 8 verses, the Lord now presents the essence of bhakti. Although the compilers of the scriptures have advocated various methods for elevation, this system of Bhakti-yoga, or devotional service, was introduced by the Lord himself. However, a neophyte can easily be diverted from the other processes so that no benefit is accrued, whereas the devotional service of the Lord never goes in vain. This is stated in this verse, that the process of devotional service is the best means of spiritual realization, and such engagement can never be considered a loss. Lord Krishna said, My dear Uddhav, if one begins the process of devotional service to me and becomes diverted before reaching perfection, there is still no loss or diminution, because Bhakti-yoga is transcendental and is executed under my shelter. This supreme religious practice is perfect in all respects, because I am the fully independent Supreme Personality of Godhead. The word madhya in this verse refers to the principles of devotional service, and not to the cultivation of knowledge. Jnana, or the cultivation of knowledge, is not fully transcendental, and awards the successful performer in personal liberation in Brahman, and not the association of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. The desire for material enjoyment is the root cause of all anarthas. Only liberated souls who have renounced material enjoyment are actually qualified to worship Lord Hari. Yo yo mai pare kalpyate nishvalaya chet tad ayasa nirarthasyar bhayadher iva sattama. O most pious Uddhava, when faced with a dangerous situation, an ordinary person cries, becomes fearful, and laments, although such useless emotions do not change the situation. However, activities offered to me without personal motivation, even if they are apparently useless, amounts to the highest process of religion. Wow, I really like that verse. I'm going to save that one. One second. Next page, please. Okay, Sārārtha-darśinī. If devotional service to the Lord is performed without desire for personal gain, it will help elevate one to the spiritual platform. If devotional service, beginning with hearing and chanting, is engaged in for the sake of achieving worldly or heavenly sense gratification, as well as name and fame in this life or liberation in the next, it will act, but only gradually. Devotional service is a supremely powerful process of self-realization and is capable of awarding one the ultimate goal of life. And so what to speak of other lesser achievements? The scriptures advise that a Vaishnava need not worry about his maintenance, such as food and clothing. The Lord is known as Vishvambhara, the maintainer of the entire universe, and so how could he neglect his devotees? Still, if a devotee cries to the Lord for protection or maintenance, desiring to continue his devotional service without impediment, the Lord accepts such apparently unnecessary appeals as the highest religious process, as stated in this verse. Gauḍīya Bhaṣya. One who performs devotional service to the Supreme Lord is never the loser. Whatever endeavor a devotee makes to serve the Lord never goes in vain, even if he cannot complete the process in this lifetime. Being transcendental, service rendered to the Lord is never forgotten nor lost. Esha buddhi matam buddhir manisha cha manishinam yat satyam anrite neha martye napnoti mamritam. This process is the supreme intelligence of the intelligent and the cleverness of the cleverest, because by following it, one can make use of that which is temporary and illusory to achieve me, the eternal reality. Sārārtha-darśinī. Why do people often execute devotional service in the hopes of gaining fame and other personal advantages? The reason is that they are not actually intelligent. This is the purport of this verse. One who poses as a great devotee to enjoy immense prestige is not actually intelligent. Simply to imagine oneself to be a great preacher of devotional service or a great relisher of transcendental rasas, simply for enjoying fame and reputation, is also not the sign of good intelligence. One who has taken birth in Bharatvarsha should try to attain the eternal Supreme Lord with the help of his temporary material body. One can obtain the eternal with the help of the temporary. Conditioned souls can utilize their abominable material bodies to achieve a sublime eternal form like that of the Supreme Lord. According to the material conception, one who can earn thousands of coins by investing just a few coins is considered intelligent. Especially in this age, those who possess the most wealth are considered to be the cleverest persons in society. However, if one could somehow possess a touchstone or a wish-fulfilling cow, he would certainly be considered even more clever and intelligent. Still, it must be understood that all such possessions are temporary and thus ultimately useless. If those who have been born in Bharatvarsha engage their temporary material bodies, which are composed of disgusting substances, prone to dwindle, full of disease, and ultimately destroyed, they use that fault-ridden body in the service of the Supreme Lord, they can come to relish the best of all possessions, love of God. The Lord gives his very self to those who are devoted to him without personal motivation. How wonderful such an attainment is! How intelligent are the inhabitants of Bharatvarsha who engage in unmotivated devotional service by hearing about the Lord, chanting his glories, and rendering all sorts of service to him. The tongue should always be engaged in chanting the holy name of the Lord. The ears should be continuously engaged in hearing the Lord's glories, and the hands should be employed in rendering menial service to him. Even by fully engaging in only one of these 9 processes of devotional service, one can achieve the perfection of life. Considering this, what actually intelligent and clever person will fail to do so? Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. Those who are the most clever and intelligent will engage themselves in the devotional service of the Lord. It is only due to good fortune that a conditioned soul who is bewildered on account of material enjoyment decides to utilize whatever may be in his possession for the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By such dovetailing of one's material body and possessions in the service of the Lord, one comes to the platform of eternality. I'm just checking the comments again. Okay. Eshate bihita kritsno brahmavadasya sangraha samasa vyasa vidhina devanam apidurgama. I have thus described to you, both briefly and in detail, the essence of spiritual knowledge, which is incomprehensible even to the demigods. Sārārtha-darśinī. The Supreme Lord thus concludes his description of the processes of transcendental realization. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. The word devanam in this verse not only refers to the demigods, but to all those who are situated in the mode of goodness. Those who are elevated in this way, but still are not fully surrendered to the Supreme Lord, are to be considered on the level of the demigods. Those people are considered to be on the level of the demigods. Abhikṣṇāśaste karitam jnānam vipashta yuktimat etad vigyāya muchyeta purusho nashta samśaya. I have repeatedly spoken this knowledge to you within a logical manner. Anyone who properly understands this knowledge will become free from all doubts and attain liberation. Suviviktam tava prashnam mayaitar apidarayet sanatananam brahmaguhyam param brahmadikachati. Anyone who carefully considers these clear answers to your questions will attain the confidential goal of the Vedas, the supreme absolute truth. Sārārtha-darśinī. The Supreme Lord said, I have elaborately replied to your questions. Anyone who attentively hears these answers will attain the supreme Brahman, who is the confidential goal of the Vedas. Ya etan mama bhakteshu sampradadyad sapushkalam tasyaham brahmadayasva tadamyatmanam. One second, I'm just going to stand up. One who liberally imparts these instructions to my devotees is the bestower of the absolute truth, and to him I give my very self. Sārārtha-darśinī. Although the phrase Brahmadasya dayasya is in the sixth dative case, it should be understood to be in the fourth dative case, so that it indicates one who gives the supreme Brahman to others. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. Devotees of the Supreme Lord are well aware of the science of devotional service. When they mercifully distribute that knowledge to others, and thus bring them to the service of the Supreme Lord, the Lord reciprocates such magnanimity by giving his very self to such devotees. On the other hand, those who are engrossed in their plans for material enjoyment cannot possibly achieve such mercy of the Lord. Ya etat samadhiyita pavitram paramam shuchi sapuyeta haraharmam jnanadipena darshayan. Recites the supreme knowledge, purifying for both the hearer and the chanter, becomes steadily purified as he reveals me to others with the lamp of transcendental knowledge. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. Those who are expert in the understanding of devotional service to the Lord are able to dissipate the darkness of ignorance with the light of transcendental knowledge. The conditioned souls are in a contaminated state of existence, but when they take to the Lord's service, they quickly become sanctified. The darkness of ignorance cannot remain in the presence of the sun-like Supreme Personality of Godhead. Ya etat shraddhaya nityam avyagra shrinuyan nara mai bhaktim param kurvan karma bhir nasabadhyate. One who regularly hears my instructions with faith and attention while constantly engaging in my pure devotional service will never become bound by the reactions of karma. Apyudhava tvaya brahma sake samavadharitam apite vigato moha shokaschaso manobhava. My dear Uddhav, have you fully understood these transcendental instructions? Has your illusion and lamentation now been dispelled from your mind? Sārārtha-darśinī. Uddhav's lamentation arose because he thought himself to be separate from Lord Krishna. It is understood that Uddhava is an eternal associate of the Lord who is put into illusion so that this wonderful conversation known as Uddhava-gītā could be spoken. Lord Krishna is herein indicating that if Uddhava did not perfectly his instructions, he would happily repeat them. Uddhava is an intimate associate of the Lord, and so this question is somewhat playful in nature. After all, the all-knowing Lord could understand Uddhava's perfect understanding of Krishna consciousness. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. By achieving the Lord's mercy, the living entity's ignorance in the form of the material conception of life is dispelled. In the liberated condition, there is no possibility of becoming subjected to lust or lamentation. Naitattvaya dambikaya nastikaya shataya cha ashushushor abhaktaya durvinitaya diyatam. You should not instruct this knowledge to anyone who is hypocritical or dishonest, or with anyone who will not listen faithfully, who is not a devotee, or who is simply not humble. Sārārtha-darśinī. Spiritual knowledge should not be distributed to those who have no faith. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. The confidential knowledge of devotional service to the Supreme Lord should not be presented to non-devotees, those who are falsely proud, cheaters, those who are arrogant, atheists, those who are faithless, and those who have no interest in hearing the truth. In this context, one should remember the ninth offense against the chanting of the holy name of the Lord. Actually, what is that? 1 second, I just want to see the Sanskrit for that. Ashadadhane vimukke pyashan. Sorry. Ashadadhane vimukke vimukhe pyashinvati yaschopadesha shivanama paradaha. Okay. Etar doshar vihinaya brahmanyaya priyaya cha sadhave shuchaye bruyad bhakti syachchudrayoshitam. This knowledge should be to one who is devoid of these faults, who is dedicated to the welfare of the brahmanas, and who is kindly disposed, saintly, and pure. And if Shudras and women are devoted to the Supreme Lord, they can also be accepted as qualified to receive these instructions. Sārārtha-darśinī. If Shudras and women have devotion for the Lord, they should also be instructed about the process of devotional service. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. The members of all the 4 varnas can be instructed in the confidential understanding of devotional service if they maintain a condition of purity and honesty. Indeed, anyone can give up his duties within the Varnashram society and fully dedicate himself to the devotional service of the Lord. Naitad vigyaya jigyasor gyatavyam avashishyate pitva piyushamamritam patavyam navashishyate. Sorry. When a person who thirsts after the truth gains an understanding of this transcendental knowledge, he has reached the completion of his education. When someone drinks nectar, no more thirst will remain. Sārārtha-darśinī. A pure devotee is fully satisfied with his engagement in the devotional service of the Lord. Outside of such engagement, he does not desire to cultivate knowledge. And even if a pure devotee desires some particular understanding, he will receive dictation from the Lord within his heart. One who knows the Supreme Lord is the knower of everything. If one drinks celestial nectar, how can he thirst for something else? No sound? How long has there been no sounds for? Was it just for a second? Maybe it was because I unplugged this by accident. You can hear now though, right? Should I go back to read anything? Let me know if you missed anything. I'll check again. Jnane karmani yoge cha vartayam dandadharane yavan arto nrinam tata tavangste ham chaturvidha. My dear Uddhav, by means of karma, jnana, yoga, mundane business, political rule, and the acceptance of tridanda, people try to make advancement in the 4 objectives of life: religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation. But because you are my devotee, whatever can be accomplished in these ways, you will very easily find within me. Sārārtha-darśinī. Should a devotee accept the processes of karma or jnana if he desires material advancement or liberation? Here the Lord says that he awards the 4 objectives of human life to the devotees that desire them. I am the goal of their cultivation of knowledge. The cultivation of knowledge culminates in liberation. The performance of fruitive activities depends on the cultivation of knowledge culminates in liberation. The performance of fruitive activities depends on the principles of religiosity, and yoga awards one mystic perfections. All such accomplishments can be easily attained by the mercy of the Lord. This is confirmed in the Narayaniya of the Moksha Dharma in the Sri Mahabharata. Ya vai sadhana sampati purushartha chatushtaye taya vina tarapnoti naro narayanashraya. Whatever among the 4 goals of human life can be achieved by various spiritual practices is automatically achieved without such endeavors by the person who has taken shelter of Lord Narayan, all persons. The purport of this verse is that one should not divert his attention to other processes, because one who is devoted to the Supreme Personality of Godhead can attain all the benefits derived from the practice of yoga, philosophical speculation, the performance of religious rituals and sacrifices, the giving of charity, and so on. That is the specific benediction of devotional service to the Supreme Lord. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. Because devotees obtain... Sorry, let me check back the... Okay, it was for a minute. Okay. Okay, thanks for letting me know. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. Because devotees obtain the perfection of yoga by their execution of devotional service, they never consider undergoing various disciplines, such as jnana yoga, karma yoga, severe austerities, or ritualistic religious performances. Martyo yada tyakta samasta karma niveditatma vichikirshito me tadamritatvam pratipadyamano mayatma bhuyaya chakalpate vai. One who gives up all fruitive activities and surrenders unto me, sincerely desiring to render service unto me, achieves liberation from birth and death, and while residing in my supreme abode, shares my opulence. Sārārtha-darśinī. Uddhava might have said, I have heard your opinion on this matter, but what is the opinion of your devotees? I've heard your opinion on this matter, but what is the opinion of your devotees? So if Uddhava said that, the Lord would reply, My dear Uddhava, the opinion of pious persons has been described in the 18th chapter, and the opinion of sinful men has been given in the 22nd chapter. My devotees are truthful, saintly, and undisturbed by material duality. A surrendered soul is one who, by the mercy of my devotee, has given up all varieties of religiosity to engage in my unalloyed service. Such a surrendered devotee has taken shelter at the lotus feet of a bona fide spiritual master, who is non-different from me. The spiritual master initiates his disciple into the chanting of the Krishna mantras, and the disciple offers everything in his possession, including his body, mind, and power of speech, for the service of the Lord. When a devotee sincerely surrenders unto me, even once, I personally take charge of him. My activities and the activities of my devotees are transcendental and factual, having nothing to do with Maya, the illusory energy. As a result of his engagement in my service, a devotee comes to associate with me as one of my loving associates. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. When the conditioned souls renounce fruitive activities, when the conditioned souls renounce fruitive activities in the cultivation of knowledge, and they surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it is not that they will feel any scarcity. The Supreme Lord is perfect and complete, and everything in relationship with him is also complete, or in other words, without any deficiency. Nicely said. Shri Shuka Uvacha Sa evam adarshita yoga margas tadottama shloka vacho nishamya padanjali prityuparudha kanto na kinchiruche shru pariplutaksha. Shukadev Goswāmī said, having been instructed by Lord Shri Krishna about the complete Uddhava, his voice choked due to ecstatic love, and his eyes filled with tears, folded his hands and stood silently, unable to say anything. Vishtabhya chittam pranayavaghurnan dharyena rajan bahumanyamana kritanjali praha yadu praviram shirshna sprishangstach charanaravindam. O king, with great patience, Uddhava pacified his mind, which was agitated by ecstatic love. Feeling most grateful to Lord Krishna, the greatest hero of the Yadu dynasty, he bowed down to touch the lotus feet of the Lord with his head, and then spoke with folded hands. But just to steady his mind, he remembered how Sri Krishna had bestowed great mercy upon him. Shri Uddhava uvacha vidravito moha mahandakaro ya ashrito me tavas sannidhanat vibhavaso kim nusame pagasya shitam tamobhi prabhavantya. Sri Uddhava said, O primeval Lord, I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but by your merciful association, my delusion is now dispelled. For one who stands in the sunlight, how can cold, darkness, or fear continue to oppress him? Sārārtha-darśinī. Shri Uddhava said, I have fallen into the darkness of illusion. Although I am surrounded by the Yadavas headed by Sri Krishna, I consider Dwarka to be a limited and temporary material place. In the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord Sri Krishna revealed the confidential conclusions of transcendental knowledge to Uddhava, which were unknown to others. But he withheld the most confidential part, which he has now imparted to him. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. Just as, by the rising of the sun, darkness is automatically vanquished, so, when one takes to the devotional service of the Supreme Lord, the darkness of ignorance cannot remain. The processes of karma, jnana, and yoga are incapable of these processes are incapable of entirely removing the darkness of ignorance. Pratyarpito me bhagavatanukampina Prityaya vijnanamaya pradipa etva kritagyastava paramulanko nyam samiyachcharanam konyam samiyachcharanam tvadiyam. As reciprocation for my surrender at your lotus feet, you have mercifully illuminated me with transcendental knowledge. What devotee of yours has any gratitude? What devotee of yours who has any gratitude at all could give up the shelter of your lotus feet and accept another master? Sārārtha-darśinī. Uddhava said, I have surrendered my body, soul, mind, intelligence, and senses unto you, and in return you have enlightened me with the knowledge that removes all darkness of ignorance. My dear Lord, I am fully satisfied at every moment by the realization of your unfathomable glories. Now you may do whatever you wish to your surrendered servant. You may keep me here or send me wherever you desire. I am ever grateful to you, and I simply wish to remain your eternal servant. I have no personal desire to go anywhere, even a holy place of pilgrimage, leaving aside your lotus feet. I am happy to reside anywhere as long as I am fully absorbed in your devotional service. Whatever you wish me to do, I will carry out your order. This is the purport of this verse. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. When one takes shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, all of the darkness born of ignorance is dispelled so that one becomes free from all doubts. Such a devotee accepts the lotus feet of the Lord as his only refuge. Vriknascha me sudrirasneha pasho tasharha vrishnyandaka sattvateshu prasarita shrishti vivridaye tvaya swamayaya hyatma subodhahetina. With a desire to increase the population, you extended the rope of my affection toward the Dasharhas, Andakas, Vrishnis, and Yadavas. But today, you have cut that rope with the weapon of transcendental knowledge. Sārārtha-darśinī. Uddhava might wonder, how can I sever my affection for the Yadavas and go elsewhere? So if Uddhava wondered that, he would answer that as follows. Krishna would answer that as follows. I am tied to the Yadavas with the rope of affection. My dear Lord, Uddhava would say. If Uddhava wondered this, then he would answer as follows. I am tied to the Yadavas with the rope of affection. My dear Lord, you expanded your family, the Yadavas, and have thus increased the population by means of your own potency. Your family is still expanding through the agency of your sons and grandsons. Thus, my social prestige has also spread in all directions. You should now cut off the rope of my family affection and prestige with the weapon of transcendental knowledge. Let me instead be tied by the rope of affection to those who relish hearing and chanting your transcendental names, as well as descriptions of your transcendental forms, qualities, and pastimes. Let that affection remain as my ornament. I wish to remain in your association, I wish to remain in your association and that of the Yadavas forever. This is my prayer. Oh no, the internet cut out. Okay, Satyadidi, no problem. Oh, I'm sorry, Raseshwari Mataji has to go now, don't you? It's time for your next reading. We're just at the end. Namostute Mahayogen Prapannam Anushadimam Yatatvac Charanam Bhoje Rattisyar Anapayini. O greatest of mystic yogis, I offer my obeisances unto you. Please instruct me, who am surrendered unto you, so that I may have unflinching attachment to your lotus feet. Sārārtha-darśinī. Uddhava said, O greatest of all mystics, you have so graciously allowed me to realize your transcendental nature and characteristics, and thus have awarded me complete satisfaction. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Gacchodhava Mayadishto Padarayakya Mamashramam Tatra Matpada Tirtho De Snanopas Parshanai Shuchi Ikshaya Lakanandaya Vidhuta Shesha Kalmasha Vasano Valkalanyanga Vanya Bhuksuka Nispriha Titikshur Dvandamatranam Shushila Samyatendriya Shanta Samahita Dhiya Jnana Vijnana Sangyuta Matto nu shikshitam yatte viviktam anubhavayan maya veshita vakchito madharma nirato bhava ativraja gatistisro mam eshyasi tata param. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, My dear Uddhava, follow my order and go back to Badarikashram. Purify yourself by bathing and performing achman with the water that has emanated from my lotus feet. Free yourself of all sinful reactions by having darshan of the sacred Alakananda river. Dress yourself in tree bark and eat the fruit and roots that are easily available in the forest. Thus, you should remain self-satisfied and free of all desires, tolerant of all dualities, good-natured, self-controlled, peaceful, and endowed with transcendental knowledge and realization. With fixed attention, constantly contemplate these instructions that I have imparted to you, and thus assimilate their essence. Fix your mind and words upon me, and in this way you will be able to surpass the influence of the three modes of material nature and finally come back to me. Sārārtha-darśinī. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O Uddhava, you are as good as me, and thus, among all the members of the Yadu dynasty, you are my personal representative. I had previously declared, Uddhava is not inferior to me in any way. Therefore, you should remain in this world just to preach my instructions. Distribute this transcendental knowledge to everyone. Whatever I wish to accomplish in this world can be done through you. As I had previously sent you to Vraj, I will now send you to Badarikashram. There, the foremost of sages, Sri Narayan, as well as others, aspired to see me. Previously, I traveled to Mithila and many other places on this earth, and satisfied all my devotees who desired to see me by giving them my darshan and imparting to them transcendental knowledge. Now, however, I am unable to go to Badarikashram. I am now 125 years old, and the time for my disappearance has arrived. You said to me, I am your surrendered servant, and so kindly order me, what should I do? So this is my order. Your name, Uddhav, is suitable because you give pleasure to everyone. Now, go to Badarikashram and give everyone joy by displaying your knowledge, renunciation, and other sublime characteristics. This is my mission. Indeed, simply by your glance, you will nullify all the sinful reactions that have been stocked in the river Alakananda. After you execute my order, you will return to me in the spiritual sky. Gauḍīya Bhaṣya. Instead of working under the direction of the three modes of material nature, if one works under the direction of the spiritual master in devotional service, which is transcendental to the material modes, he certainly becomes qualified to attain the ultimate destination. Others cannot go back to Godhead because they try to attain insignificant and temporary material objects. I just want to see if we should, how much is left. We're on 45 now. I'm wondering if I should finish tomorrow. It's 1,000 words. Yeah, maybe we should finish tomorrow. All right, so, and then that way Seshri Mataji won't miss everything. And yeah, so I'll stop here. We can read the translation for all the rest of the verses. Shukadeva Goswāmī said, after being thus instructed by the supremely intelligent Lord Shri Krishna, Uddhava circumambulated him and then bowed down to offer his obeisances, placing his head upon the lotus feet of the Lord. Although Uddhava was freed from the influence of all material dualities, he became afflicted by feelings of separation, so that he drenched the Lord's lotus feet with his tears. Greatly fearing separation from the Lord, for whom he felt such great affection, Uddhava was distraught, so that he could not give up the Lord's association. Finally, feeling great agony, he repeatedly bowed down to the Lord, placed his wooden shoes upon his head, and departed. Thereafter, the exalted devotee Uddhava placed Sri Krishna upon the lotus feet of his heart and went to Badarikashram. By engaging in austerities, he attains the Lord's eternal abode, which had been described to him by the only friend of the conditioned souls, Lord Krishna. Thus, Lord Krishna, whose lotus feet are served by all the great masters of yoga, spoke to his devotee this transcendental knowledge which comprises the entire ocean of spiritual ecstasy. Anyone who receives this narration with great faith and devotion is assured of liberation in the very near future. I offer my obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the origin of everything, Lord Shri Krishna. He is the author of the Vedas, and just to destroy his devotees' fear of material existence, like a bee, he collected the essence of all knowledge and self-realization and then awarded it to his devotees, who, by his mercy, have drunk it. And that's the end of Uddhava-gītā. So we will read those 5 last verses and the commentaries tomorrow. So tomorrow we'll actually finish Uddhava-gītā. I started late today. Sorry about that, guys. Otherwise, we could have finished today. All right. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. Jai Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Gandharvika Giridhari Shri Shri Radha Vinod Bihari Ju Ki Jai Shri Govinda Gopinath Madan Mohan Ju Ki Jai Nityal Pravishtam Vishnupa Rashata Rashata Shishmar Bhakti-yoga Narayan Gosvāmī Mahārāja Śrīla Gurudev Ki Jai Nityal Pravishtam Vishnupa Rashata Rashata Shishmar Bhakti-yoga Vaman Gosvāmī Mahārāja Ki Jai Nityal Pravishtam Vishnupa Rashata Rashata Shishmar Bhakti-yoga Swami Mahārāja Śrīla Prabhupāda Ki Jai Nityal Pravishtam Vishnupa Rashata Rashata Shishmar Bhakti-yoga Keshav Gosvāmī Mahārāja Ki Jai Nityal Pravishtam Vishnupa Rashata Rashata Shishmar Bhaktisiddhānta Sarasvatī Gosvāmī Prabhupāda Ki Jai Nityal Pravishta Mahābhagavat Śrīla Gorksharas Babaji Mahārāja Ki Jai Nityal Pravishta Śrīla Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Ṭhākura Ki Jai Nityal Pravishta Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Śrīla Jagannath Das Babaji Mahārāja Ki Jai Shri Rupanuga Gauriya Guru Varga Ki Jai Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jeev Gopal Bhatta Das Raghunath Shar Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gaur Parshad Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Śrīla Haridas Ṭhākura Ki Jai प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासरी गौर भक्त वृंद की जाय श्री क्षेत्र मंडल गौर मंडल व्रज मंडल मथुरा वृंदावन धाम की जाय सर्व अभिष्ट प्रदात गिरिराज महाराज की जाय श्री राधा कुंद श्याम कुनी मनोगंगा तुलसी भक्ति देवी की जाय श्री हरि नाम संकीर्तन की जाय श्री पंदब निर्जला एकादशी तिथि की जाय तिथि पालन करी भक्त वृंद की जाय श्री उद्धव-गीता की जाय ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जाय श्रील विश्वनाथ चक्रवर्ती ठाकुर Sārārtha-darśinī वृत्ति की जाय श्रील भक्तिसिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी प्रभुपाद गौड़ीय भाष्य की जाय हरि नाम संकीर्तन की जाय अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जाय समागत गौर भक्त वृंद की जाय श्री निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल वृंदाय तुलसी देवाय प्रियाय केशवाय कृष्ण भक्ति प्रददेवी सत्यवताय नमो नमः वंशा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो namo namaha. Dandavat pranams everybody. Thank you for sticking with me so late. Yeah. Oh my God, it's already 8:41. I'll see you all tomorrow to actually complete the Uddhava-gītā. So yeah, see you tomorrow. Jai Shri Radhe. Hari Bol Satya Mataji. Hare Krishna everybody.